Good morning. This is Pastor Zach with the Goodland United Methodist Church with your morning devotion for Monday, September 11th. This week I'm going to take you through some of our classic Bible stories that we remember from our childhood that maybe we learned in Sunday school or in Vacation Bible School or have been used in popular culture. So I'm going to start with reading some excerpts from the book of Jonah. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai, saying, "Go at once to Nineveh, the great city, and cry out against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah set out to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid his fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea. Such a mighty storm came upon the sea that the ship threatened to break it up. Their mariners were afraid, and each cried to his God. Jonah, meanwhile, had gone down into the hold of the ship and laid down, and was fast asleep. The captain came to him and said, "What are you doing? Sound asleep? Get up, call on your God. Perhaps the God will spare us a thought, so that we do not perish." The sailors said to one another, "Come, let us cast lots, so that we may know on whose account this calamity has come upon us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they said to him, "Tell us why this calamity has come upon us. What is your occupation? Where did you come from? What is your country? And of what people are you?" "I am Hebrew," replied. "I worship the Lord, of the God of heaven, who made the sea and dry land." Then the men were even more afraid and said, "And what is it you have done?" For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord, because he had told them so. They picked up Jonah and threw him into the sea, and the sea ceased and was raging. The men feared the Lord even more, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows. But the Lord provided a large fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah then goes on to give a psalm of thanksgiving to God. At the end of that, the Lord spoke to the fish, and it spewed Jonah upon the dry land. Now, I thought about this story and its meaning for us, and the whole book of Jonah is something to take in, somewhat of a comedy of sorts that tells us of what it's like to try to run, that God will never let us run completely away. I remember a story from Tech Sample. I've read it both in a book and been told by some of the students who took classes from him that he called a call to ministry a lot like throwing up. That you can hold it in as long as you want to, but eventually you're going to have to spew your cookies. And in this case, Jonah experienced just that. He ran and ran from the Lord. He didn't want to do what the Lord had called upon him to do, even to the point where he ran away to a far-off land, and he still was found by God, swallowed up in a fish, and then spewed upon the dry land. Then to go on and speak to the Ninevites and help them find their way. Jonah fulfilled what God wanted. So as we look in our lives of the ways that maybe we try to avoid God, we try to flee to far-off lands or think of other ideas, we need to know that God will always seek us out. God will always find us and get us to where we need to be, where God wants us to be. Have a blessed day.